Lights, camera, action.
Hey guys, welcome back to our podcast.
Hey guys.
So today officially concludes our Christmas series. Christmas is just a couple days away. And so far, if you have not listened to our other Christmas episodes, we have covered Home Alone, Die Hard, and It's a Wonderful Life. But today we are going to be covering Elf, which is one of my, it might be my favorite Christmas movie of all time.
I think I might agree with you there. It is one of, if not the best Christmas movie. I mean, it's solid.
It's a classic.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into my introductory details.
All right.
So Elf was released on November 7th of 2003. It was directed by Jon Favreau. It is starring Will Ferrell, I never know how to say her last name.
Zoe Deschanel.
Yeah, that.
Yep.
James Caan, Jon Favreau, Peter Dinklage, Mary Steenburgen, Ed Asner, and Daniel Tay. It was distributed by Warner Bros. It has a runtime of 1 hour and 35 minutes. It is rated PG. It had a budget of $33 million and a box office total of $225.1 million.
What was the budget?
$33 million.
Okay. Very nice.
So some fun facts about the film. My first one is that Will Ferrell was actually not the first choice to play Buddy the Elf. And I feel like I knew this already. Did you know this already, John?
I may have, but I definitely did not retain it.
Do you have a guess of who was the first choice?
Or
do you know?
I know who was considered because I have it in my production details.
Oh, well, go ahead.
Well, I know that the script was originally written in 1993. Mm-hmm. And when the script was penned, they were eyeing either Chris Farley or James Carey to be the lead.
James Carey, very formal.
Oh, I don't know what I was thinking of. James Caan, I guess. Sorry, Jim Carrey
Yes.
is what I meant. Yes. Yeah.
Is his full name James?
I would assume. Oh, that sounds weird. Are you okay being called Jim? Yeah.
Okay, so my next fun fact is that many pieces of the movie were inspired by Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, including the elves' outfits, specifically Buddy's was inspired by Rudolph.
I've always felt that way, especially like kind of the stop motion-y type animation of, I forget his name, the snowman.
I can't remember either off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm blanking, but regardless, I've always thought the same thing.
Yeah. So my next one is that initially the department store that a lot of the scenes take place in, which is called Gimbel's.
Yes.
It was meant to be a Macy's in the movie, but they had to pivot because Macy's was willing to let them shoot there and like use their little Santa Land thing and even like incorporate them into, the big Macy's Day Parade thing that they do every year.
Yes.
But one of Macy's like stipulations for them to shoot there was that they would have to remove the scene where Santa is revealed to be a fake because they said that their Santa had to be real.
Oh, okay.
So they ended up just scrapping the Macy's idea, and they ended up filming in the cafeteria of a mental hospital. And they just kind of had to build their own department store, in that. Because they thought long and hard about it, but they didn't want to change the content that much. They wanted it to have that whole fake Santa scene.
Interesting.
And they ended up naming the store Gimbel's as a nod to the movie Miracle on 34th Street.
Which is an all-time Christmas classic movie.
Yes, which I've not seen it, but I really want to.
Oh, really?
I've not, yeah.
That's like my sister Kyla. That's like her favorite Christmas movie.
Yeah,
I
I'd
watch
like
it
to
with
see
her
it.
every year when I was younger and when she still lived in the house.
Mm-hmm. Is there a book?
There might be.
Because I feel like I've read a book called that, but maybe I haven't.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. Anyways, the next fact that I have is that for the fight scene between Buddy and the fake Santa, Jon Favreau told them that they had to get it perfect in one take because it took the movie's art department over 2 weeks to create Buddy's Legos set and light brights and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously they all get destroyed while they're fighting because like they get like one of them gets like body slammed over the table or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
So they had one take to get it perfectly and they got it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Next, obviously the enormous burp that Buddy does after chugging the Coke was not real.
Right.
It wasn't done by Will Ferrell. The person who did the burp is named Maurice LaMarche.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who he is, he's been in a lot of stuff, but the one that I immediately was like, oh my gosh, that's so funny. He plays Mr. Big in Zootopia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. I love
So-
Mr. Big.
Yeah. And in fact, if you look up the cast list of Elf,
Yeah.
Maurice's name is there and his picture, and his part is just listed as Buddy's Belch. And that's his part.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Next, Peter Billingsley, who plays Ming Ming the elf, also played who?
He played, what's his name? In A Christmas Story.
Ralphie.
Ralphie.
Yes.
Yeah, I was blanking. Yes, he plays Ralphie in A Christmas Story.
Yes, which I only just learned a couple years ago. And I mean, I've watched this movie every year pretty much since it came out. And
Yeah.
I only put that together a couple years ago.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I definitely watched it way more than once a year, every year, because it was like pretty much from middle school on, like I would watch it in at least one class for like our Christmas, it's almost Christmas break. So they put on a movie and then I'd watch it at home and I'd usually watch it multiple times. So I would say I've watched it every year for the last, 15 years for probably 2-3 times per season. And I only figured that out, like 3-4 years ago, somewhere in that neighborhood. But anywho.
Okay, so my next one is I think everybody knows that Jon Favreau plays the doctor that Buddy goes to see.
Yes, who is the director of the movie.
Right.
Who, in my opinion, one of the best directors in Hollywood currently working. I love Jon Favreau.
I agree. So he plays the doctor, but I didn't realize that he had another role in this movie. Do you know what it is?
Oh, I did at one time because I remember looking at IMDb and seeing that he did something else, but I don't remember what it is.
He voiced the narwhal.
That's what it was.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
had no idea, but like I used to always say bye buddy.
Hope you find your dad.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I saw something too that the raccoon that Buddy tries to hug,
Yes.
the sound effects that he makes. I also saw that Jon Favreau did the sound effects for him, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
I
no
couldn't
idea.
find multiple sources to back that up. So
Yeah.
my next fact is that when Buddy's finger gets pricked and he, yells pretty loud after, you
Yes.
can see James Caan, who plays Buddy's dad, turn away from the camera because he started to break character. He started to crack up at it.
That's hilarious.
And I looked it up just to see, and he does. He completely turns his back to the camera.
That is funny.
And then my last fact is that the reactions to the Jack in the Boxes by Will Ferrell are actually real when he's testing those and he gets scared by them,
Yeah.
because they were remote controlled. So Jon Favreau would just
that's
stand off
awesome.
camera and just at random points make it pop up. So Will
That's
never
great.
actually knew when they were going to pop
Yeah.
out at him.
He didn't have to pretend to act.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
Yeah. So
That's really smart too, which again just reaffirms my stance that I think Jon Favreau is one of the few truly great directors left in Hollywood. I mean, there's still plenty of really, really awesome directors out there. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not even going to start listing them because it's another conversation for another day. But he firmly believes in practical effects and, I think pushing actors to the best that they can be, as well as focusing on the story and the audience and not being somebody who's driven solely by what the studio wants or, things like that. I think he really is a master at what he does.
Yeah, me too. That's all the facts I have. So you are up.
Okay. Well, let's jump into some production details. I don't have a ton. I do have some. The first one being something that we already covered, just that the original script was written in 93 and that Chris Farley and Jim Carrey were eyed for the role of Buddy. Over the years, the movie received several rewrites. Initially, Jon Favreau was not interested in directing the film, as the original script had a much darker tone and would have likely been rated PG-13. But after being asked to rewrite the script, Favreau decided that he would focus on a more classic Christmas feel for the movie so that the whole family could enjoy it. Principal photography began on December 9th, 2002, and wrapped on March 7th, 2003. Shooting locations include New York City as well as Vancouver. The film uses very little CGI, which, if you kind of think about it at surface level, you wouldn't really think, oh yeah, there's not really a whole lot of scenes that require CGI, except when you consider that pretty much the whole opening sequence, all the actors that are playing elves are regular height. And, Will Ferrell looks humongous next to them. None of that was done using CGI. And that's something that Jon Favreau had to fight the studio for. So what he insisted on using was forced perspective, which, if you're not familiar with forced perspective, I think most people are. But if you're not, it's basically positioning two things in camera so that one thing looks bigger than the other. When in actuality, they're not even close. One is really far away, one's really close, but just from this one certain angle, they look like they're standing next to each other and one's bigger than the other.
They have I can't remember. It's like some museum of some kind in Chicago that you can go to, or maybe it's an Indy. I don't know.
I think it's in Chicago. I don't know. I know what you're talking about, where there's a room you can walk from one side to the other and it looks like you're getting huge or getting small.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's basically what this puts into practice. So every scene that Buddy is with the elves, that's all captured in camera. That's not, CGI or anything else. They didn't do it on like a blue screen or have people in green suits that they digitally replaced. That was all captured in camera with all the actors in costume on set. So I applaud them for that because I know that had to be, I know that it was extremely stressful because I watched some of the behind the scenes where they got very close to basically saying, you know what, this isn't working. We're just going to move on to CGI. But Favreau fought the studio pretty hard on it, saying that the end product would be better for it. And, I'm sure they could have made it look fine with CGI, especially when you think back to early 2000s. So this is right around the time of Pirates of the Caribbean, when CGI was getting really nailed down into looking really, really, really good. At that point in time, Hollywood wasn't using CGI for literally anything and everything. So you had a lot more, modesty or seldom use. I'm not sure. Intentionality maybe is a better word, but just the idea of we're not just going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at a CGI artist and say, hey, just make it happen. We're actually going to be intentional in how we approach this. And so the end product is better. So I think they probably could have pulled it off and it would have been fine. But I really do appreciate the fact that they went through all that trouble.
Yeah.
So he insisted on using forced perspective as well as stop motion, which we touched on. So just a couple last few bullet points here. When Buddy is singing in gimbals, the song, I'm in a store and I'm singing. Yeah. So that was completely improvised by Will Ferrell. It was in the script for him to sing, but there was not a song or anything written down beforehand. So he just did that impromptu.
He did a great job. I loved that part.
He did. Another improvised scene is when what's his boss's name at Gimbals? I don't remember. Well,
I can't remember either. I talk about how much I love this movie and then I don't know characters' names.
Well, anyways, he says, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m., Santa's coming to town. And he screams, Santa! That was improvised as well. That was not in the script.
I quote that all the time. Not the Santa part, but the 10 a.m. Anytime somebody says 10 a.m.
Tomorrow morning or 10 a.m. We actually quote that throughout the year. It does not have to be Christmas time. And then final detail that I have is, if you recall in the movie, one of the jokes, like a running gag throughout the film, is that elves stick to the 5 main food groups, which is candy canes, candy corn, and sugar. Or is it the 4?
And syrup. Candy, candy canes, candy corn.
And syrup.
Oh, he says, what was the first one?
I'm pretty sure he says candy. Candy cane, candy corn, and syrup. Maybe it's the 4 main food groups that he says.
I don't know why I thought it was 5 too.
I thought it was 5. We might be missing something. Regardless, so that's like a thing. And in every scene, like when he makes the spaghetti, he puts like marshmallows and Pop-Tarts and syrup and all this absolutely disgusting stuff. Because of that scene, Will Ferrell did throw up on set.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah, he had too much sugar.
I looked it up and it is 4.
Okay, yeah, so we were at candy cane, candy corn, and syrup.
Yeah, I'd probably get sick too. That's so much, and it's gross.
Well, yeah, having spaghetti mixed with a Pop-Tart, yeah, very gross. But anywho, that's all the production details that I have.
Okay, so let's move on to rating.
Okay, how would you rate it? Scale of 1 to 100.
Because this is my favorite Christmas movie, and honestly, I mean, it has a lot of nostalgia tied up in it for me. Like, I was like you growing up, we would watch it every year, at least once, if not multiple times around Christmas. And,
right.
Got a ton of like good one-liners and things like that. So I think I'm going to give this movie a 94, 95 maybe. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I've struggled because I have been in that wheelhouse too. At times I've said, I'd just give this movie a 100. I don't have any complaints. Mm-hmm. I don't have any criticisms, but at least as far as our show goes, 100 is sacred because we have not given out any 100s yet.
Right.
We've had a couple guests that have. Last week, Phil gave It's a Wonderful Life 100. Mm-hmm. And I think Jordan gave The Incredibles, Jordan Bewley gave The Incredibles a 100. And those are the only 2 100s we've had on the show, as far as I can remember.
Yep.
So I really would like to dish out my first 100. But I don't know if this warrants it. I feel like this is weighty. This matters.
Do you have a 100 movie?
I think so. I don't know.
I don't know that I even have a 100 movie.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's tough because then you start getting into like comparing genres. Like as far as Christmas movies go, like I have no problem giving this a 100, but like comparing this to Interstellar, like it's 2 completely different realms.
Right. You can't know what I mean? Compare them.
Exactly. So that's where like I go back and forth. Mm-hmm. So I've been kind of in the 100, 95, 98 kind of ballpark. I felt pretty confident that I was just going to give it a nice round 95. But I'm going to give this a 98. It's a solid movie. I have no complaints about the movie. It is very, very good. Obviously, nostalgia does play a factor. Not going to try to play that down. But, I mean, as far as the story goes and the comedy in the movie and everything else, like, it's spot on. It's funny every time I watch it. It's is highly quotable, probably the most quotable Christmas movie, at least that I can think of. I mean, there are other movies, Christmas movies especially, that have really good quotes, but I think this has the most, or at least I hear them the most often.
Yeah.
So highly quotable. It's got really good bits, like it's acted really, really well. I don't know that there's another movie quite like this, in the sense that like it has a lot of heart. It's a really good message. It's genuinely funny, and I don't feel like I get tired of it when I watch it. But it also doesn't feel like it's like, I don't know what the right word is, overtly like Christmas. Like it does, but it doesn't. Just maybe it's because it's this adventure going into New York.
Yeah.
Kind of like a little bit different. Like I feel kind of weird that I said that.
Yeah, I think I disagree with you.
It does feel obviously overtly Christmas, but I don't know. There's just something about it that feels very special. And I think that's just a testament to how strong of a story is present in the movie.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I mean, I'm giving it a solid 98.
Okay.
So what would you say are some of your favorite scenes from this film?
Well, I have a lot of them, so I'll just say what comes to mind first, I guess.
Okay.
I really like, I'll do more of the mushy gushy ones first.
Okay.
So like, I really like when Buddy and Michael start to get along, and, you know, like they're decorating the Christmas tree together and going to the mall together and just like, you know, having fun.
Right. Yeah. I love that. Love when they're like jumping in the elevator and everything.
Yeah.
And like when they go up to
Jovi.
Yeah, I was going to say Zoe Deschanel because I couldn't remember a character's name. Yeah, Jovi. When they go up to her and he's just like there supporting Buddy.
Yeah.
You know, like I love that.
Yeah. I just really like seeing their relationship. Like, I mean, you see it go from absolutely nothing, where Michael like literally says like at dinner after he burps, I think, and he's just like shaking his head and it's like, you're so weird, you know?
Well, and
like,
he yells at him to go home not too long after that.
Yeah. So I just really like seeing that relationship start out at nothing and then blossom into like, you know, an actual brother relationship. I also like when Walter stands up to his boss at the end and, you know, like he says something like, don't tell my kid what to do, you know?
Yeah, don't talk to my son like that.
And
yeah,
I think that James Caan acts that really well because like you can tell that he feels really uncomfortable doing that.
Yeah, well, and
he knows what the right thing is to do.
Right. And you can feel the conflict because he's still in this position of like, my work does matter to me.
Right.
And I like my job and I want to keep my job. But at the same time, like my kids matter to me.
Right.
And what my son is saying is true, that like, you know, I've lived a life where I don't care about anybody but myself. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then I also, this is not even really a scene, it's just like the tiniest snippet, but I've always really liked the scene toward the end when Jovi is over at their apartment and Walter's playing the piano and Jovi is singing. Like, I love that scene, one, because I love Zoe's singing voice, but also I like that it just kind of shows like that she's kind of becoming part of the family and that they're all just kind of coming together, because I don't know that you would have, before Buddy, you would have seen Walter playing the piano, you know?
Right.
So I just like that. It just kind of seems like it just wraps everything up really well.
Yes,
So.
I agree. I think that honestly, as far as ending scenes go for a Christmas movie, Elf might have one of the best ones ever.
Yeah.
I mean, it's satisfying, but also extremely heartfelt without dragging it out, not feeling overly cheesy, and just, you know, being a nice bow on the entire story.
Right.
And especially because you kind of get a two-parter there. You get Jovi with Buddy's family, his human family, And so they're there and, playing the piano, and it's really sweet. But then they go back to the North Pole and visit Papa Elf and
Have a baby.
yes, they have a baby whose name is
I don't remember.
Susie.
Susie.
I'm pretty sure because there was the girl he talks to that wants a Susie talks a lot. And so
Gotcha.
anyways, so you get to see that too, which by the way, Papa Elf, I don't remember if you mentioned this in your cast details, but Papa Elf played by Bob Newhart. Love that Bob Newhart is in this movie, that he plays him.
Yeah. I didn't mention that. I don't think.
Yeah. I like Bob Newhart. I have seen him in the Bob Newhart show. So
I have a question,
Yes.
kind of backtracking a little bit. Or do you think that maybe their baby's name is Susie after Susan Wells?
Ooh, that is probably a stronger theory.
I think it is.
I mean, it could be both.
It could be both.
But it probably is because that's Buddy's
That's his mom. Yeah.
Interesting. Ah.
Okay. Sorry. And then some other of my favorite scenes. I've always really loved the Jack in the Box scene. I just think it's funny,
Yes.
and I enjoy watching that. And then also,
And there's a payoff for that scene in the I guess towards the end of the film when he's helping
Yeah.
Santa and the Jack in the Box pops out and freaks him out. Like it's not a through line as far as gags go. It's not through the whole film, but there is a payoff at the end of the movie, which I love.
And then another one that I like is the elevator scene when he first gets to the
Yes.
Empire State Building.
Yes.
And he's in with a complete stranger. I love that he, starts pushing all the buttons, but then also like you can see like they're like halfway up because half of them are unlit.
Yeah.
And when he gets off the elevator and the doors start to close and he's like, wait, I forgot to give you a hug. Like I think that's so funny.
Yes.
And then honestly, these might be some of my favorite scenes of the whole movie. I don't know for sure, but I think they might be. I love the mailroom scenes. I love them. I think they're hilarious.
They are.
Especially when Deborah calls Walter and says, like there's a problem in the mailroom, and it cuts to
He's like,
Buddy
"A
like
problem?"
dancing on the table.
Yeah.
I love those scenes.
Yeah. No, that is great. I
And
love
then
that.
also like when Buddy and whatever the guy's name
I think it's
is,
Derek.
Yeah, are like laying in the mail cart things, and
Yeah.
how old does he say that he is? Like
He's
26
he's like,
or
I'm
something?
25. I got to get out of the flow
And he's
or whatever.
Literally,
Yeah.
he looks like
He looks
like
he's
40.
in his late
Late
40s.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if not older, like, yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think that's everything that I can think of as far as favorite scenes go.
Okay.
What about you?
Oh, man. Too many to name. I mean, the whole movie is hilarious. The fact that Ralphie, the guy who plays Ralphie, is the head elf or whatever in this movie is hilarious. His name is Ming Ming in this film, right?
Yes.
Like, that is so funny. And if you never knew that before, go watch the movie, because the minute you see him, you're immediately going to realize, oh, hey, that's Ralphie. Like, it looks just like him, just grown up.
With darker hair and a beard.
Yes. Yep. So anyways, that's a fun little callback to A Christmas Story, which is also an all-time classic. But I don't know, start to finish, I love this movie. It's hard for me to pick one scene as being better than the other or my favorite scenes, because everything stands out. I mean, I love the fact that like they chopped down a Christmas tree from Central Park.
That's way too big for their living room.
Yeah. So not only is it funny that like it's way too big, and like Buddy jumps on it to put the tree or the star, and then the tree falls over.
That's another one of my favorites, I think.
Yeah. But then when Walter's talking to what is Michael's mom's name?
Are you kidding me right now?
No.
It's my name.
Her
name is Emily.
Yes, it's Emily. Yes. Okay. So Emily, when Walter's talking to Emily and he's like, what is this? And she's like, oh, it's fine. They were having fun. He's like, oh, okay. Felonies are fun now. Like, that's hilarious. That's a really good scene. I love the whole sequence when Buddy's first in New York and Pennies from Heaven plays. I learned the majority of the lyrics to that song purely from watching this movie over and over and over again when I was a kid. Because I had a DVD player in my room. I watched this movie every night during Christmas season.
That song played at our wedding reception. We
does.
put it in the playlist.
It's a great. I'm probably coming up here soon at Christmas. I'll probably play it in the background when our family's over. I mean, it's a good song.
It's not a Christmas song, but it's kind of become one to me.
Yeah, because of Elf. Yeah, I agree 100%. But anyways, so I love that whole sequence. Buddy gets hit by a taxi, which is hilarious. The sequence where Jovi's in the shower and, Buddy in genuine and pure innocence goes into the bathroom and is just outside it singing along. And, of course, she freaks out as any reasonable person would. And he runs into the lockers and falls back because he covers his face after she yells at him. That scene's hilarious. Man, there are too many to name. One of my favorite things about this film, maybe not a specific scene, but one of my favorite things about this film is that Ed Asner plays Santa.
Yes.
I love Ed Asner. He voices Carl in Up, the main character. He automatically holds a special place in my heart because if you didn't know already, we love Up. That movie is very special to Emily and I. So if you didn't listen to our Up episode, go back and listen to it. It's a great episode. But anyways, Ed Asner, who voices Carl Frederick, is on here playing Santa, which I love. And I also love the way that he plays Santa. He's not necessarily like a classic Santa, in the sense of like this holly jolly ho 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 type guy. He's also not like this spiritual figure, I guess, if that makes sense, because there are definitely some movies that kind of try to make him kind of like a god, if you will, or like a Jesus type character, which he is not. But anyways, so I just really like the way that he plays Santa in this film. He plays him as I wouldn't say jaded or cynical or anything, but he just feels very real, I guess, in the sense that he he's not overly unrealistically happy or something, if that makes sense, but I really like that he's kind of just real in his maybe a little bit of sarcasm and whatnot, and like talking to Buddy about fixing the sleigh and that he put the park rangers on the naughty list. Like he's maybe got a little bit of grit to him, but he also is very genuine and loving and sincere. Especially one of my favorite moments with Santa in the movie is when he's talking to Michael in the park and he's like, what do you want for Christmas? And he's like, a skateboard. And he's like, no, not just a skateboard, a real huffboard. And he pulls out his list and he's showing him and everything. It just feels uniquely sincere. There's nothing special about the words that he says. It's all in Ed's performance.
Right.
And so I love that he's able to maintain this form of genuineness and sincerity and love and, whatever other kind of warm, fuzzy words you want to use there, but also having this just realistic, I guess, real world, hey, I have to see every single house in the world tonight. I don't know. I like the way that he plays Santa in this film.
Yeah. Sorry, were you going to keep saying things you liked?
Yeah. I'm just saying stuff off the top of my head. So you go ahead.
Okay. One other thing I meant to say earlier, and I know we briefly touched on it. I really did like that they incorporated all of the stop motion, just
too.
kind of as a nod to all of the, the Christmas classics that were in stop motion,
right.
there's so many of them, like Rudolph and Santa Claus is coming to town, and
Yep.
like all of those. And I also, like we said earlier, how the elf outfits were inspired by Rudolph, but also like the snowman in this movie, was his name Leon or Leon? Leon, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure was based off the snowman in Rudolph too. And
that's another thing that I love is the outfits that the elves wear in this film.
Mm-hmm.
They do, like, you can tell that they're inspired by the Rudolph film,
Mm-hmm.
but they also feel unique to this movie. Like, there aren't any other movies where the elves are wearing costumes quite like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love the design of the elf costumes in this movie. That's something that it really stands out to me when I think about just the overall feel and design of this movie.
Yeah, me too. Well, I think that's all I have that I wanted to talk about.
Okay. I mean, I could go on and on. There's so many things that I like about this movie. It really is funny. And if you want to maybe get into the like deeper parts of the film, like I really do love kind of the journey that Buddy goes on, just because he is a character who's very naive about the world around him. And he's very vulnerable, and he kind of gets thrown into what I would imagine is probably a place where you see a lot of emotions. New York City, there's a lot of people there, and people are, by our human nature, we're very emotional sometimes, we all have different things going on in our lives. So he got to see kind of the raw truth of human nature, being exposed to that environment, and especially, meeting someone like his dad who only cares about himself. That'd be tough. And so seeing him go on this whole journey, and by the end of the film, well, not the end of the film, but like maybe the beginning of the third act, give or take, after he writes the farewell letter to his family and is kind of wandering. I never realized this until last week when we watched It's a Wonderful Life, but they are totally calling back to that movie in the scene where Buddy's standing on the bridge questioning where he belongs. That is 100% George Bailey, feeling like, he doesn't belong anywhere.
Right.
That's exactly what Buddy says. He's like, I don't belong anywhere, because he's not an elf, so he shouldn't be in the North Pole, and his own family doesn't love him, so he shouldn't be with them. And so obviously that's not true, and his family goes out of their way to come by his side and support him. But it's interesting. I never really noticed that because I had never seen It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
But for him to go on that whole journey is really a cool story thread. But then also for Walter and the story or journey, I guess, that he goes on, just in being this extremely self-centered man who is only looking out for his own interest, really doesn't seem to be an involved father or husband. And, he doesn't care about his consumers either. He cares about money, but as like the product that he puts out, he's like, no, print it without the additional 4 pages of the story that have to be there to make sense. So obviously does not care, only cares about the dollars. And so for him, by the end of the film, to be somebody who's, focused about his family and making sure that his son knows that he loves him and that he messed up and that he does matter and, all this stuff, like that's an important story thread. And I think, if you're out there listening, I think that if we're all humble and we take a step back, we can recognize that that's all of us. We're all by nature focused on ourselves. Maybe we don't realize it all the time, but that is kind of the epitome of human nature, that we are self-driven creatures, that we're focused on our own desires and what we want and when we want it and what we want to get out of life. And so it does take a lot of work and effort to be able to move past ourselves. And I sincerely believe that that's all impossible without the help of God and the Holy Spirit. But I think it's something that is important to recognize and know that we are selfish. And so, if that's something you're struggling with, take a moment to maybe learn something from Walter in this movie and consider those that are around you.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I could go on and on and on. This movie is so great. I think a good way to maybe encapsulate what we're feeling, because I could talk about every scene, is what are some of your favorite quotes?
Oh gosh. Man, you put me on the spot.
Okay.
I mean, there's so many. I love, the 10 a.m. Santa's coming to town. That quote. I mean, all of the ones that are probably way overly quoted, like, the cotton-headed Ninny Muggins one.
Oh, yeah, cotton-headed Ninny Muggins.
Bye, buddy, hope you find your dad.
Yep.
And the best way to spread
Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear.
And then, of course, Buddy's impromptu song in the mall when he's singing in the store,
Right.
but also when he's singing to his dad.
Yes. I'm with my dad, and we've never met, but he wanted me to sing him a song. And I was adopted, but you didn't know I was born. So I'm here now. I found you, Daddy.
And guess what?
I love you. I love you. I love you.
Good job, John.
Thank you.
Those are just the ones I can think of off the top of my head. I know there are more, but yeah. Oh, another one is I still don't know the manager's name of Gimbals, but
yeah,
when he comes up to
Jovi
and she's trimming the ribbon, he's like 6 inches.
Yes, I love that.
I like that one too.
6 inches ribbon curls, honey, and she's like, "That's impossible." 6 inches. Yes, I love that. Yeah, well, I think you covered pretty much all of them. Oh, when he goes into the coffee shop and he's like, "You did it! Congratulations!
World's best cup of coffee."
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that. Yes,
I do too.
That is great. Okay, cool. Well, is there anything else you want to touch on?
I think I'm good.
Okay. Well, one thing that I wanted to do, since this is our last, we've done the 4 weeks of Christmas, and this is our last episode of Christmas movies going into Christmas, because this is going to release on the 23rd and Christmas is on the 25th. So first and foremost, Emily and I would like to wish you all a Merry Christmas. We hope you guys have a great time with your families celebrating. I know for me, Christmas is absolutely my favorite time of year. Just being inside the house, being with family, being able to give to each other, that's all extremely special and it's a sweet time, and there's nothing else quite like it. But I think one of my absolute favorite things every year is, whether it's with my extended family or it's just Emily and I, my absolute favorite thing is to, before we open presents, before we do anything, right after we wake up and we go downstairs, it's Christmas morning, we sit down and we read the gospel history of when Jesus was born. Notice that I said history. That is very intentional. I do not say, Bible stories or anything like that, because it's not just a story. This is what happened in our past, and you can choose to accept it or deny it, and that's okay. But the truth and the reality is that there is, to quote my pastor from a sermon the other week ago, there is no historian that's worth their salt on this earth that can deny the existence of Jesus. He was a real person who was on this planet. Now, they will deny or question his claims, but they cannot deny the fact that he was a real person. And so that is something to consider this Christmas season. So with that, I really kind of want to close this episode out just reading the biblical history of Luke 2, 8 through 14, which for those of you who have seen Charlie Brown Christmas, this is what Linus reads. So Luke 2, starting in verse 8, it says, "And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, 'Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in clothes and lying in a manger.' Suddenly, a great company of heavenly hosts appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, 'Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those on whom his favor rests.'" So that was Luke 2, verses 8 through 14. 2,000 years ago, a child was born. You can choose to accept or deny if he really was the Son of God, but if you don't know Christ or what his claims were, I would challenge you and encourage you to look through the Bible, see what it says, because that's what Christmas is all about. This is the arrival of the Son of God to be the Savior for mankind. And that's the heart of Christmas. And we're really excited to celebrate that this year. We're really excited to celebrate Christmas. And remembering that God provided for his people.
And I just want to throw out there, I mean, we've been talking a lot about, how Christmas is our favorite time of year, and it's so much fun to get together with family and to be able to give and just have fun together. But I do also want to recognize that it can also be a really difficult time for people. So just know, I understand where you're at, because I've struggled with it too. So just know that if this holiday season is difficult for you for whatever reason that may be, whether it be a loss of a loved one or just family issues or whatever it may be, just know that you are not alone, and that we love you and God loves you. And yeah.
Well, thank you guys for listening, and thank you for saying that, Em. We're really glad that you've been on this 4 weeks of Christmas movies journey with us, and it has officially come to a close with this episode. So next week we're going to continue pumping out our weekly episode of Married to Movies, talking about different movies, but we are officially done with Christmas movies, and we are going to start things back up with a 007 movie.
Yes.
Yep. Next week we are going to be covering Casino Royale, the first Daniel Craig movie. So we're really excited about it. One of our favorite movies. It is currently, if you want to watch it ahead of time, it is currently streaming on Amazon. It is also streaming on MGM Plus if you have that. I do not. I don't know why everybody and their brother has to have a streaming service. But hey, if you have it, it's on there. So with that, we thank you guys. We hope you have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next week.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.